Okay, this presentation discusses the personal virtues in Islam. The personal virtues in Islam. The personal virtues in Islam. Although personal and social virtues are part of an integrated human personality in Islam, it is possible to identify virtues specific to the individual. Typically, however, the Quran identifies them in connection with doing good works or social virtue. Here the Quran, chapter 2, verse 62. Those who believe in the Quran and those who are Jews follow the Jewish scriptures, and the Christians and the Sabians, any who believe in Allah and the last day and work righteousness, shall have their reward with their Lord, and them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. Next, surely those who believe and those who are Jews and the Sabians and the Christians, whoever believes in Allah and the last day and does good, they shall have no fear, nor shall they grieve. Chapter 2, verse 69. Believe in God. Believe in God, therefore, is considered in the Quranic view to be the basis of all virtues. Okay, so believe in God, to have faith in God, is the basis of all virtues, of all good things, that which motivates the good deeds necessary to accomplish the trust, the amana, for which we were created. The term for belief or faith is iman, the Arabic term iman, and in its centrality to the overall mission of Islam, it has been called Islam's most important ethical term, that is faith. The term iman comes from an Arabic root that conveys the meaning of being safe or secure and closely related, trustworthy. We see the integrated approach to faith in Islam. The implication is that acceptance of one's purpose on earth and one's utter dependence on God are not only correct belief but road to security and ultimate well-being. Human happiness and well-being in this view can only come from this recognition. So this point says that iman, okay, iman, among the meaning of iman is secure, safe, and it is through iman that human being can feel, can attain that security, the state of secure and safe. Efforts to find security and fulfillment elsewhere are inevitably futile, since God is the sole source of both. So this point says that human cannot find security and fulfillment, safe, from other source. They need to find it through this faith, iman. Okay, to believe in God, then they can achieve security, safe, according to Islamic belief. Yet the recognition is not mere intellectual assent. Iman, properly conceived, is both intellectual acceptance of propositions concerning the unseen and commitment to manifestation of that acceptance in realm of that seen. So this point stresses that iman is not just a theoretical concept, it's not just about belief, but it also needs action. Belief and acting, the action in according to that belief. The belief in the unseen world, but the commitment, the action in the seen world, the physical world, must be fulfilled. Therefore, Muslims must do good deeds, good actions, because good actions is the manifestations of one's faith. The Quran did not command mere intellectual belief, but rather a certain kind of behavior or activity in accordance with beliefs. So this point stresses that the Quran does not command just a mere belief, just belief, no, but it also command human to have certain kind of behavior, of actions, of activity in accordance with that belief. So in this case, it is maybe good deeds, good works, devotions, ibadah. Beliefs are not in general to be held for their own sake, but for their role in influencing behavior in accordance with the will of God. The sense of the term shahada is bearing witness, that is vowing to demonstrate one's behavior, the recognition that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is God's messenger. Accordingly, the term Islam itself represents a major virtue. Before this, we see the term faith, now the term Islam. So like the term Iman, okay, before this Iman, faith. Islam, the term Islam, has a number of interrelated meanings. It comes from an Arabic root that can mean in various contexts, like to be safe, secure, intact, integrated, whole, okay, peace, to surrender or submit, okay, submission. These are among the beautiful meanings and contexts of the term Islam. Again, it carries with it the existential nature of faith in Islam, the idea that true faith is inevitably demonstrated in action. So true faith will be demonstrated in action, and vice versa. Action is the demonstration, the representation, manifestations of true faith, true Iman. Also, Islam means the submission of our own wills to the divine will, to the will of God. So Islam is submission, submission to God, wholeheartedly to submit, to obey. For creatures other than human beings, submission to the will of God is simple. In fact, the Quran says that the whole universe is prostrate before God in complete submission. So Islam believes that all creatures also submit to God in their own ways. Quran chapter 15 verse 15, and whoever is in the heavens and the earth makes obeisance, do prostrate to Allah only, willingly and unwillingly, and the shadows too at morn and eve. So this verse and another verse, okay, affirms that the whole universe are in submission, okay, wholeheartedly, peacefully to God, to the will of God. The nature of all creation is to behave in the way and for the purpose for which it was created. Okay, the creation, they will follow their own nature, which already created by God. Only human beings, having taken upon themselves the trust, the amana, have the capacity to go against our very nature, attempting to thwart the will of God. So this point says that other creations, they follow their nature, they follow their purpose of creation, their tasks. Only human beings are given the freedom whether to obey or disobey. Therefore, the Quran specifies certain actions for believers designed to remind them of their Creator and their commitment to do His will. Those acts are generally classified as kind of worships, prayers, fasting, and pilgrimage. But each of these must be done mindfully. Simple repetition of ritual is not meritorious in Islam. So Muslims are given specific actions, okay, to believers, to Muslims, which among the purpose is to remind them of their Creator, so that they will remember their Creator, their God, Allah. Okay, some of them in the form of worship, prayers, fasting, and so on. For that reason, performance of the deeds must be preceded by declaration of proper intention. So intention, niyyah, is very important in Islamic ethical philosophy, that intention must come first, that all deeds, all actions depends on intentions. One must consciously dedicate one's action to God. Only in that way can performance of ritual be considered as virtuous. Even rite and ritual also depend on intention. So intention must be dedicated only to serve God, to get His pleasure, not for other gods, not for other purpose. As the Quran reminds people, the benefit resulting from such deed is not for God, but for people. Chapter 2, verse 37. Reminding themselves of the reason for their existence, renewing their commitment to doing the will of God, and re-establishing their shared humanity through group worship, all help strengthen human beings' faith as well as their commitment to put into action. Perhaps the most generalized of Islamic virtue is the state of or condition of having achieved mindfulness of God. Okay? That is achieving the state of mindfulness of God, such that our actions automatically reflect true belief. That condition is called taqwa by the Quran. That condition of mindfulness of God is called taqwa, coming from the root meaning similar Iman and Islam. In Arabic, the term is difficult to translate. Taqwa, its core meaning is to guard, shelter, protect, or preserve. In one form, it means to be on guard, which may be why taqwa is often translated into English as fear of God, although this phrase makes a little sense in Arabic as it does in English. Also translated as pious or acting righteously, the noun form indicating those who have taqwa. So this points stress that another important term is taqwa. Taqwa, which among the meaning is achieving the mindfulness of God, God's consciousness. That is always conscious about God, always remember God, always seeing God, always can feel the existence of God everywhere, every time. And this point also stressed that the normal translation into English, like taqwa as the fear of God, is not accurate. So taqwa is not just about fear of God, it's about the consciousness of God, even the love of God. So taqwa is very comprehensive and dynamic term from Islamic perspective. When the Quran talks about proper motivation for performing religious rituals, it says it must be taqwa. Chapter 22, verse 32. When it speaks of being fair and dealing with people, even those considered to be enemies, it says that is a manifestation of taqwa. In general, when the Quran describes correct behavior stemming from true belief or proper orientation toward ultimate reality, it uses the term taqwa. So, for example, and help one another in goodness and piety, and do not help one another in sin and aggression. 5:2. Taqwa, therefore, like other virtues in Islam, serves both to protect the individual from harm and to further God's cause. In the Islamic worldview, the two goals are one. This among the dynamic dimension of taqwa from Islamic perspective. Correct belief resulting in submission to the will of God, producing conscience that guides behavior that promotes the well-being of the individual and in the process the well-being of society. These are interrelated virtues in Islam. So correct belief and all the positive aspects and effects, all of them are interrelated virtues in Islam. Another virtue, there is the pursuit of knowledge of one's surroundings. This is also considered as another virtue in Islam. To pursue knowledge of one's surroundings. Knowledge of God's will for humanity has its source in revelation. And knowledge about God's will, comes from revelation. It is offered to humanity, and the virtuous response is a substance of that knowledge on faith. But other kinds of knowledge are also necessary for the fulfillment of God's will. The Quran therefore continuously encourages believers to seek knowledge, to reflect upon the science acquiring knowledge, whether it is religious knowledge or the knowledge related to the surroundings, the new knowledge. This kind of secular knowledge, meaning knowledge of the world in which we live, is essential to being able to realize the will of God in our surroundings. So religious knowledge, secular knowledge, or other knowledge are also essential in order to achieve the objectives. For example, to helping us in achieving our goal and purpose of life. Also, therefore, those who take upon themselves this responsibility are acting virtuously. So some aspects of Islamic virtue have to do with proper recognition of and orientation toward the infinite, accepting our own finitude. Other aspects like action in accordance with the divine will. So thus Islamic virtues, even personal ones, manifest themselves publicly in society. So these are among the aspects of Islamic ethics. Islamic personal ethics according to Imam Ghazali, based on Ihya Ulumuddin. So now this section discusses Islamic personal ethics. Islamic personal ethics according to Imam Ghazali, one of the most prominent Muslim scholars, and this based on his magnum opus, his main books known as Ihya Ulumuddin. The ethical discussion of Al-Ghazali in his Ihya applies ascending scale of blameworthy character, beginning with controlling desire, which is regarded as the less harmful vice or lesser blameworthy character, and ending with pride and conceit, which are regarded as the greatest harmful vices or the worst kinds of blameworthy character. Al-Ghazali ascending scale of blameworthy character is the breaking of the two desires, gluttony and lust, the evil of the tongue, the condemnation of strong anger, rancor and envy, the condemnation of worldliness, the condemnation of miserliness and love of wealth, the condemnation of love of influence and ostentation, and the condemnation of pride and conceit. Basically, the first blameworthy character is considered as the root or the cause of the second, which in turn is regarded as the cause of the third, and so on. We will follow the order that already arranged, formulated by Imam Ghazali. Thus, following Al-Ghazali approach, the discussion on the Islamic personal code of ethics, which covers blameworthy character that should be removed or avoided, and good or praiseworthy character that should be cultivated by every Muslim, will be categorized as below. However, this arrangement does not follow Al-Ghazali's approach plainly. For whenever necessary, some combination and addition will be made to make the discussion more complete and relevant to the present study. So this the arrangement according to Imam Al-Ghazali. First, to control the two desires, that's gluttony and lust, and to cultivate self-restraint and temperance. Second, to control bodily organs and actions, and to cultivate gratefulness. Third, to avoid strong anger, rancor, and envy, and to cultivate patience, forgiveness, and kindness. Fourth, to avoid worldliness, materialistic, miserliness, and extravagance, and to cultivate contentment, generosity, and benevolence. Fifth, to avoid love of influence and ostentation, and to have good intention and be sincere. Sixth, to avoid pride and conceit, and to cultivate humbleness or modesty. Now, good and bad in Islam. Good and bad in Islam. Good and bad in Islam. According to Islamic teaching, all human beings are born with potentially good character. So Islam believes that by nature, human beings are born with the potential to have good character. In fact, Islam teaches that human beings are born in fitrah, innate good character, pure, clean. So all the hadith collection include report that all children are born into fitrah, innate good character. For example, so set thy purpose, O Muhammad, for religion as a man by nature upright, the nature frame of Allah in which He hath created man. There is no altering the laws of Allah's creation. That is the right religion, but most men know not. 30:30. It is believed, therefore, that human nature is created with the capacity to behave as God wills us to. The verse continues by outlining that behavior: turn to Him and take refuge, show taqwa, establish prayer, and do not be among those who associate other things with God. 30:31. In other words, serve God alone. So Islam believes and Islam teaches that human beings are born in fitrah, potentially good character, have the potential to follow God's commands, God's will, have the capacity to fulfill God's will, and God already provided everything that are needed. The teaching on fitrah assumes that all human beings are endowed by their Creator with this good character, this ability to recognize God through His signs and to respond with humility and obedience. The teachings on family responsibilities, parents' responsibility to nurture their children, to train them and teach them the true religion, assumes that with proper care, that basically good character, good human character will flourish. So it's important, the dynamic nature of the concept of fitrah in Islam. That human beings are born in good character, good condition, clean, pure, and able to be educated, inculcate good character, good natures, good behaviors. The Quran acknowledges human weakness, such as our tendency to panic and lose faith in times of stress. That is why we are instructed, Muslims are instructed, humans are instructed to constantly reaffirm our faith and commitment through prayer throughout the day. So Muslims are constantly reaffirmed to renew their faith, reaffirm their faith through, for example, through prayers throughout the day. And it is why the Quran reassures us, Muslims, repeatedly that we were not created without purpose. So Islam believes that all human beings are created with purpose. There is objective of creation. Our efforts, Muslims' efforts, will indeed be rewarded, and help is available when times are difficult. For God does not require from anyone what is beyond his or her strengths to accomplish. So Islam teaches that God will reward the good actions, even good intentions, and God will not require anything that are beyond the capacity of human beings. Nevertheless, the Quran also acknowledges that some people go astray. The Quran accounts for the existence of evil through the story of the devil, Iblis, or Satan, Shaitan. For example, the Quran says, "And thus did we make for every prophet an enemy, the Shaitans, devils, evil ones, from among men and jinns." Chapter 6, verse 112. But the Shaitan, that is the Satan, made them both fall from it, and caused them to depart from the state in which they were. And we said, "Get forth, some of you being the enemies of others, and there is for you in the earth an abode, and a provision for a time." Chapter 2, verse 36. The Quran also warns people again and again not to follow the footsteps of Satan, just as it makes it clear that Satan is an enemy of people. So the Quran keeps reminding human beings do not follow Satan or Shaitan or Iblis, because they are the enemies for human beings. They call for destruction. And they try to lead human beings away, astray from God's will. The devils, that is Iblis, in the creation story of Adam and Eve, set for himself the task of leading human beings astray from the day he was ejected from paradise until the final judgment. This is the promise of the Satan, of the devil creature. They try to lead astray all human beings, the descendants of Adam and Eve. The Quran describes most of the work of the devil, the Satan or Iblis, as trickery. So most of the work, the deeds, the action of devil are trickery, making things appear to be what they are not. This trickery is effective on some human beings because of their failure to think clearly, to read the signs because of their ignorance. In addition to Satan or Iblis, it is undeniable that some human beings commit evil acts. Also, people go astray through self-deception, by confusion in their minds between their own selfish interests and desires and the true guidance that is available to them through revelation. The Quran states, "But those who are unjust follow their own desires without any knowledge." Chapter 30, verse 29. So besides Satan, evil, devil, Iblis, another factors that lead human beings to bad deed, deviant ways to astray, is the lustful desire, the bad desires, also called the nafs. That is the bad desire within human beings, the lustful desire. So some of human beings also go astray because of following their lustful desires, bad desires, self-deceptions, because they do not follow the guidance, the revelation, the straight path. So human beings are keep reminded not to follow these bad factors, the Satan and the lustful desire. Regardless of the ultimate source of evil, two things are clear in the Quran. The first is that the individuals who commit the acts are themselves morally responsible for the consequence. The Quran insists that human beings bear the ultimate responsibility for their actions. So human beings cannot blame other factors, cannot blame other people, cannot blame Satan or whatever, because they are given sufficient guidance that they need already provided. They are given the intellect, the aqal, the guidance, the Quran, the prophets, and all the things that are needed in this world. But if they still follow the bad desire on them. Second, the Quran contends that in general people are led astray and follow their baser instinct due to ignorance, jahil. For example, the Quran states, "And even if we had sent down to them the angels, and the dead had spoken to them, and we had brought together all things before them, they would not believe unless Allah pleases, but most of them are ignorant." When all human beings are called before God, the ultimate judge, their veils of self-deception will be removed from them, and they will be faced with the reality of their behavior. So you can read the quotation from the Quran, chapter 81, verse 1 to 14. No means of self-deception will be available to us. It will be said, "Certainly you were heedless of it, but now we have removed from you your veil, so your sight today is sharp." This among the quotation from the Quran. So at the final judgment, our self-deception will be exposed, and our punishment will be the pain of facing the evil we have thereby caused. This a reminder to those who follow their self-deception, lustful desire, or even Satan, the devil. Thus, people are basically good by nature, quote unquote. People are basically good, but evil exists and it stems essentially from people's self-deception, ignorance. They are created with a natural inclination toward good and the ability to recognize God and respond accordingly with submission and obedience. But through ignorance and self-deception, they can bring perdition upon themselves by substituting their own personal whims for the eternal will of God. Therefore, human beings need to be reminded and need to be always alert about temptation, self-deception, ignorance, evil, devil, and so on, and try to focus on the straight path to follow the revelation. So this is from Islamic perspective.